Alright, welcome back to another Call of Duty Warzone tutorial for beginners. So I've decided to make a series out of this since, I keep kind of forgetting more and more content to put in as I go along. So I figured, you know what? There's still so much more for beginners to get to know. One of the next things I want to talk about is your weapon loadout. So, let's just say you started the game, you've been playing, you've been trying to level up your guns, or maybe you already have, and now you're in the process of making some loadouts. Like, okay, what should you make in terms of loadouts? Like there's so many things. Like you have 10 slots, right, to make stuff up. For me now, I'm a little bit different type of player. Now I'm not saying you should do exactly what I'm doing here, but basically what you should always have in terms of loadouts is like you have your basic. So you want to always do a ghost loadout. So for example, let's just go into my growl setup here. So for your perks, generally depending on what kind of perk you want to use, well, one of the metas right now in terms of the best perks to use is ghost. Always have at least one loadout with a ghost perk, because for ghost, as you see here, it's undetectable by UAVs, radars, and heartbeat sensors. So basically, at any time within Warzone, anybody uses a UAV and heartbeat sensors, you will not be detected. Even if you have a unsilenced weapon, you will not show up on the mini-map. So this is arguably a kind of a overpowered perk bit. I don't know if they're gonna, I don't know if they're gonna really nerf it anytime soon. It doesn't seem like it's too big a deal, especially with but I think like with the silenced weapon, if you don't have a suppressor, it should show up on the mini map like it normally did back in old Call of Duties, but for some reason it just doesn't here. In terms of perk 2 and 1 and 3, you can use kind of whatever you want. Most people right now go with EOD just because so they don't get one hit kills by explosives such as C4s and grenades. I see a lot of other people using cold-blooded so that they're undetected by thermals if you're playing in the night mode. Other people like other stuff, like get a quick fix, kill chain, double time so you can just run quicker. Even scavenger, but but also remember here, like it says MW specialist has no effects in Warzone game mode. So like kind of just remember to read all of this. So like as some of these have different, or they have different perks in Warzone. Like for example, multiplayer kill chain counts only towards your next kill streak, only applies kill streak in life, increases your chance of finding kill streaks in supply boxes, no effects in Warzone Rumble. So you should definitely read some of the fine line or like the description over here, just in case like which ones you want to pick up. So as far as I can tell, you can't really scavenger much off of other players in Warzone. The last time I used it, like it's not like they drop a little bag like they would in multiplayer, and you can just pick up ammo or whatever. So generally I don't use that, I just use EOD. So for 1 and 2 is pretty much like these are the only two that you would use right now, unless you really want to run faster with double time or something like that, or use cold-blooded so that you don't show up on any kind of thermals, which can help you in the long run, because there's still people who run different types of scopes out there. Perk 3, now this is a place where a lot of people change it up a little bit more. So I have amped, which basically is a faster weapon switch faster weapon swap and rocket launch reload speed. So whenever I switch guns, it's super quick. If I need to reload a launcher, it's super quick. So this is pretty much what a lot of people use. But people do also use battle hardened, so that if they get stunned or flash or even EMP'd and get EMP that much, this is really good. Tracker is also really good, so that you see where footprints go. This could be a good one for battle royale solos, so you know where people are going and you see their tracks on the floor, so you can essentially just follow them, especially if you pair this up with the Deadly Science perk or whatever, not perk, but the Deadly Science tool. then you can basically, you know, pop that when you see footprints and then just follow them, and you know, you can kill them however you want, essentially, as long as they don't look behind themselves, right? So that's pretty powerful. Battle hardened. I've definitely come up with people who have that too. You know, you'll see a little helmet kind of flash whenever they get hit by a stun. Most people don't have this because they're using amp most of the time. I would say probably like 70 to 80% of people use battle or use amped instead of battle hardened. It's rare I run into people with battle hardened. I don't know if people really use tune-up. They were using tune-up a lot when there was that glitch with the stims and the health stim, but I don't think people use it anymore. Shrapnel, I'm pretty sure this still works. I think I'm not too sure about that one. But actually, I don't think or maybe it doesn't, because no matter what, like even if your general loadout gives you like one explosive, like say you just have a grenade, if you like, you know, pick up another grenade, it'll just slot you another one anyway, so you can pick up more than one. Obviously, like I don't think you even really need this. Spotter, definitely never seen anyone use this at all, so don't even bother. But for me, I like using amped, just because I can switch in between weapons quicker. You know, for myself, I'm not much of a sniper, so I usually switch between an assault rifle or an what's that called? I usually switch between an assault rifle or an SMG or a shotgun. So switching between those two types of weapons usually takes a lot longer, but with amped it's almost instant. Well, it's not instantaneous, but it takes about like a second or so, which is where it normally takes maybe 2 seconds or something like that. So it definitely takes up it makes it a little bit better. In terms of guns, like, or the types of other weapons and like, you know, accessories you have, really just make it more towards how you want to play. Since the C4 has been nerfed, not a lot. People are still running a lot of C4, but because it's been nerfed in terms of the throwing distance, you know, less people run it. So for me, right now I'm just running Simtex because the explosion is just as powerful-ish, you know, maybe a little less powerful, but the good thing is I can throw this pretty far. So, and it's been so far pretty decent in terms of how I use it. So, and it sticks to stuff just like a C4 would. So, it's pretty good. I've seen a lot of people use thermite because that just, you know, if anyone is running a riot shield, it just burns right through it, so they have no chance against it. Proximity mines are always good because like you can leave it next to doors and stuff, and people generally don't react too quickly to it. You know, only like really good players are able to prone themselves quickly enough to avoid these. Claymores are always good. You know, definitely lying those around. I don't know about if you know, this could be good between claymores and proximity mines. This could be good for solos if you want to booby trap doors and stuff. I don't see too many people running frag grenades, but they're still good too because, you know, they can bounce off walls. So if you need to chuck a grenade like up a set of stairs or something and you need to bounce it off something, this could work too. So in terms of what you want to chuck out there, you know, it's really good. I don't even have the throwing knife, or I have a throwing knife unlocked. I see people only using this when they do like either the sticks, or they're running with sticks, or they're having a riot shield, you know, because these are suckers or one-hit kills, you know. So if you can stab someone with this, you're pretty good to go. But it's also not the easiest to use a throwing knife, so depending on how good you are, you know, you can use all these. Molotov cocktails are, I rarely see people actually put this in a loadout. I mean, I pick it up when it's on the ground if I have to, because hey, something is better than nothing. And I've been hit with a Molotov cocktail like straight in the face, and it pretty much kills a person. Like it's just no, like you can't like stop, drop, and roll, you know, and get out of it. So it'll just kill a person. I don't even know. I don't think you can even really revive them, because obviously since it's burning the person, it might burn the person. It'll burn the person trying to revive you too. So I mean, it's good if you know how to use it, but generally I wouldn't recommend putting in a loadout. In terms of tacticals, I mean, no point in running decoys. Please don't ever throw these, like, I mean, unless you're really tricky with them, where you think like people will run out, like you can chuck it in one window and then get the guy to run out the other side of the house or window, another window or something, and then get him. There's really no other point for this. Gas grenades, if you watch like guys like Nick Mertz, Tim the Tatman, they've run a few different types of grenades before, and gas grenade is actually, you know, while I wouldn't necessarily put in loadout, I would pick it up in game and use it every once in a while. It's not bad to, one, like just disorient the other player, or two, know if a player is there. Like let's just say, like, you know, you think someone is camping in a cabin somewhere and they're upstairs, you chuck this in there, you know, they immediately start coughing, then you know they're up there, unless they have a gas mask, of course. But if you know someone's up there, then you know they're gonna, then now you know that, one, they're gonna be, the gas grenade doesn't hurt you, by the way, so, or at least doesn't hurt teammates, so you can still run in there and kill the other guy when you throw this stuff. And also allows you to disorient the other guys, because, like, you know, generally most people don't even expect gas grenades coming, so when it does come, they're like, oh crap, like, you know, I'm gonna be gassed. Like, generally it's not something to really worry yourself about. I mean, but most people don't know how to react to it, so it can be used effectively, but I wouldn't put it in a particular setup, or at least in a loadout. Stims, they can be useful when you're in gas, because this gives you full life the second you use it. But arguably, to replace a heartbeat sensor, stun, or flash grenade, it's kind of your own decision, depending on what the situation is. So I generally don't see a lot of people run stims. Heartbeat sensors is pretty common, because obviously you can get, it's like kind of your own little UAV. But obviously, if people have ghosts, then a heartbeat sensor is useless. But having it and not needing it is better than needing it and not having it. Snapshot grenades were great when the AS Val was freaking overpowered as crazy and can shoot through mountains and crap like that. But in general, they're not going to be in loadouts. I mean, they're kind of good in terms of exposing people within houses and stuff. It doesn't even matter if you have ghosts. This will still reveal them. But generally, it's not really worth like putting in a loadout. Smoke grenades, also not worth it. I mean, I'll pick it up and use it in the field, but I won't put it in a loadout. Stun and flash are pretty good, interchangeable. A lot of people run stun, because stunning a person and they're not unable to turn real quick. You know, what you basically do is stun a person, and then, you know, you strafe around them and kill them at the same time, because they're not going to be able to turn quickly enough to kill you. So, you know, generally you never want to run at someone, because they can still shoot you, because if they're shooting straight forward, then that's basically nothing different. But if you strafe, then they're screwed. Flash is still good, because when you flash someone, obviously they can't see, and at that point you can do whatever you want. But just remember, they can still freely move, so, you know, if they really wanted to, they can just like shoot everywhere and they can still hit you, right? So depending on how you want to play, these are kind of interchangeable. I typically like stun grenades a little bit more, just because they last. I know, I feel like them stopping them from moving is better than just flashing them. So those are the difference between kind of lethals and tactical. So in terms of the types of loadouts that you should be running, so, you know, I kind of have one for sniping in case I really feel like I can snipe. I have a few different loadouts between my different types of ARs I want to use. So, like, you know, generally I use a Growl or Kilo. I used to have a M13, but I just stick with the Growl or Kilo nowadays. And then I'll have to have one for MP5 and AA12 and an AA12. And most of these have ghosts. Actually, no, all of these, but 2 have ghosts in them, because pretty much 9 times out of 10, like, you generally want to be running with ghosts anyway, so that people can't detect you. Because the second a UAV pops up and you hear it on the comms where, like, oh, enemy UAV is up, and you don't have ghosts, and they see you on the radar, there's a pretty good chance they're going to come after you, unless there's someone else closer that they can get. So generally I run with Ghost almost all the time. And what I do is, like, for my first loadout, I'll pick up an AR and I just match it with the launcher, just because I'm not that great. Sometimes I'll throw in a pistol here and there for my fully loaded, but I'll talk about that in a second. But generally I just put in a launcher, and the reason I use a javelin is just because every once in a while I'll get a javelin kill. It's not all the time, but like I like, locking on to vehicles and helicopters, and every once in a while, like, I get a ground kill, like about maybe 30% of the time, maybe a little less, but actually 30 is kind of a lot, more like 20% of the time. But it's always kind of fun when you get those like hits or kills, and it's like, holy crap, like I just killed him with a javelin, like, because I just aimed wherever, but this is generally kind of more of like a joke. Like, I generally change the secondary out on the second loadout. So like, first I'll get the loadout with a growl, and then on the second loadout, if you can get to it, I change it out with either an MP5 or an AA-12, or a shot or some kind of shotgun, so that you can replace the secondary. So then at which point you still have the ghost perk, but you're running more of a AR SMG build, but you have a different perk here instead. So that's how like a lot of players do it. If you are balls to the wall and pretty aggressive, you can do with an AR MP5 or like AR shotgun or AR SMG build in the beginning, and then you don't have ghost. And then on your second loadout that you get, you can then pick up anything from here and just switch the weapons out again on the ground, and then get the ghost perk. So you can always do that if you want, depending on how you want to play. So you can, generally, I would say if you're in duos or solos, you want to get the ghost perk first. You don't want to go this way, depending on what your skill level is. Obviously the really good players, they generally go for this all the time, and then they'll get ghosts later. But that's only because their reaction time and their aim, they're generally really good players, so like they can avoid getting killed without having ghost. But if you're the type of player that would rather have a little bit more protection and just kind of like, or at least secrecy from other people, then I generally recommend getting ghost first. So, but I have this whenever I'm playing trios or quads. I'll pick this up and then pick up ghost later, because there's a good chance that I'll get revived even if I'm not under the cover of ghost. But the reason I have all these different types of setups, like you see I have 2 kilo setups here. The only difference between this is that they both have ghosts, but one has stun grenades and the one has heartbeat sensor. So that's kind of how I have all my stuff kind of mixed in, at least within my ARs. Same thing with my growl. They're both growl with ghosts, but one has stun and one has heartbeat. And then MP5 and AA-12, I just stick whatever. I just shove whatever's there, because I'm just using these loadouts just to get the guns. Not really anything else in here, aside from the perk too, right? So it's really just for the perk and the gun for these two. These other items are just kind of like, nice to haves or whatever. One thing, so want you build these out, just keep that in mind. So most likely a lot of your classes might be with ghost. One thing you will always want is one fully loaded class. So fully loaded basically means when you go in here, you'll see that your main weapon has the perk fully loaded, which basically gives you max starting ammo. That way, like when you ever pick up a loadout later in the game, you know most of the map at this point, like it's pretty much like after 3 or 4 circles, most of the circle is gonna be most of the places are going to be looted, and the only way to get more ammo is to either kill a person, or if you're really lucky, you can get enough money to get a ammo box, or even find a place where they can actually still have ammo lying around. But that's really rough. Like, you generally don't want to rely on that. So later in the game, you want to pull out a fully loaded class. So that way, you basically, the second you land on the loadout, even if you don't have a whole lot of ammo on you, you get all full ammo right away for your starting AR. That way you have a more of a fighting chance. That does mean you do have to sacrifice another, I attachment. So for me, I use my growl because it has a really good iron sight. So since I can use the iron sight pretty well on the normal growl, I switched that out between my other, or at least like my other growl usually has a scope on it. So but since the normal growl has a pretty good iron sight, I use that as my fully loaded weapon. And then to attach to it, I could put a launcher, but instead I feel like if I'm really in the end game here and I need weapons, I'm gonna stick with a pistol, because obviously like you definitely also want ghost, because if it's end game you definitely don't want anyone, because people are gonna save UAVs towards the end of the game, and people are gonna be using heartbeat sensors also towards the end of the game. So if you don't have ghost and you're like, you know, maybe 1 of 5 players left, and you show up on a heartbeat sensor or a UAV, but everyone else has ghost, guess who everyone is going to be going for? You. So you generally want to have ghost. I mean, if you want to get a little crazy and you want 2 primary weapons instead of, you know, just like a pistol, and you can just use overkill and get another gun, go for it. But generally I don't recommend it. I would say for fully loaded, you use ghost. For a secondary weapon, I mean, basically it's between handguns, launchers, and melee. Hey, if you have Kali sticks and the, you know, Kodachis like unlocked, go for it. If you can get those, if you want to use those. Generally, I have a handgun, which is the only handgun I've pretty much unlocked mostly right now is well, they call it X16, but basically it's a Glock. So this is the only handgun I have like unlocked most, like, so I pretty much use in order to kind of make this a little bit better, I'm using the Urban Defiler kind of blueprint, and then also at the same time I added, you know, 26 rounds just so that I have more bullets, and the fully loaded perk on here too, just so that in case, you know, I'm using as I'm using my AR, like I need to finish someone off, I still have a secondary gun, and having 26 bullets is pretty good in terms of like finishing a person off. And plus it has a sight on it, so this gun, I mean, I'm not saying everyone do this, but this is generally what I have just in case. I've never actually had to use it, honestly, but I just have it there, you know, just for the hell of it. In terms of your tactical for the fully loaded, I have heartbeat sensor just so that, you know, I can detect other people. I'm debating whether I should change it out with a stun or not, because stun also at the end game is very good, because if you can stun your enemy and get that advantage on them, it's always, you know, it's always going to be good for you. But, you know, that's assuming you know where they are. If you don't know where they are, then it doesn't matter really. It doesn't really matter if you have a stun or not. So you know, just kind of, there's always kind of pros and cons to everything, so it's really up to you on how you pick them. But in general, in terms of loadouts, this is kind of how you should, you know, kind of put things together. You know, like ignore the level up thing. This is just for me, for like kind of like a fun category. It's like, okay, I need to level up my SPR, so whenever I want to play plunder and I need to level up a gun, I just put it, you know, in here, and this is kind of like my fun class. So like if you like look at all these perks, like everything is kind of like funny. So don't copy this. This is just my fun class. Everything out here is like what I usually use on a regular basis. So, you know, always have at least one fully loaded, and then everything else, you know, do whatever you want, but make sure to have at least ghost on them, and to make sure that, you know, you have all the guns that you use well. You know, right now the metas, there's not really one like ultra meta in the game, which is great because, you know, there's a lot of balance right now in the game. So in terms of ARs, I mean, you can use the M4, you can use a Growl, you can use a Kilo, you can use the M13, you can use a Ram, and right now it's like really balanced. So depending on what you even want to use in terms of AR, like the only ARs that people don't use are the Scar, which is unfortunate because it's actually a really good gun. It's very powerful, but it, you know, it maxes out at 30 mags for even the biggest magazine you put on it, so that kind of blows. I don't see anybody using an AK, so don't use that. Nor do I see anyone using AR-94, and the AS-Val is basically a submachine gun pretending to be an assault rifle. So this is good for up close, but you know, if you want like a normal AR that's powerful, I mean, you would generally choose, you know, the AMAX, the Growl, Ram, M13. Odin is pretty good because it is super powerful. It shoots slow, but it is pretty powerful if you know how to use it. No one uses the FAMAS that I know of. But M4 is good, FAL is good, Kilo is good. So, you know, you can use any one of these guns of like 4 or 5 different assault rifles, and you're pretty good to go. SMGs, like I would say the most people use MP5 or MP7. Those are pretty much the go-tos in terms of like time to kill. Not that these other ones are terrible. I think the Fennec arguably has the fastest time to kill, but because of the fire rate is so high, you exhaust bullets super quick. So you'll end up reloading a lot more, but it's still a good gun. Overall, like I rarely see people use an Uzi, like an upgraded Uzi or upgraded P90, unless it's just ground loot. AUG is decent too, like as ground loot, but you know, and this upgraded also to a assault rifle is not bad, but I don't obviously, you know, I don't see too many people run this either. So, you know, generally most people just MP5 and MP7. Shotguns also, you know, I mean, these things, I mean, a lot of people run R9 with the Dragon Fire bullets or the rounds, which are still, I think, super OP if you ask me. Origin has been nerfed, but still a decent gun. The VLK, I mean, it's good for ground loot, and if you pair with stopping power, it's pretty much a one-hit kill, but that's only if you land the shots. Obviously, the AA-12 right now, it's definitely very OP, especially with the mere fact that like you can, it's the skin that it comes with gives you grenade rounds, which is crazy. I think it's like 2-hit kills here with this sucker, or 2 to 3 hit kills. So as long as you land those 2 or 3 hits, it's like it's game over for that dude. But it also has dragon rounds and it's automatic fire, so this gun is still pretty good. I'm not going to really talk about the rest in terms of all the other primaries that you want to select. It's really up to you in terms of, you know, what kind of sniper rifle you want to use, marksman rifles, and then there's the melee, and then there's like the riot shield if you want to, you know, get good gameplay off of it or whatever. But in general, this is kind of what I recommend for your loadouts. So you know, just you can play around with it if you want. You know, whenever you want to try out loadout, you know, what you can do is if just go play in Plunder. The next thing I also want to talk about is something I totally forgot about in terms of the contracts you can pick up online. So one of the other contracts that you can pick up in Warzone is called Most Wanted. So Most Wanted is only available when you're playing duos, trios, or quads. So this is a fifth or sixth contract that you can pick up in the game. And basically what it does is it makes you, it puts a mark on you on everyone's map. When you pick this up, it puts a little crown on top of where you are, and anyone on the map can find you. It doesn't matter if you have perks and other stuff or not, people will find you. And if they mark you on their map, like they give you a ping, then they know where exactly you are. Like they know if you're in a tower, or they know if you're like, you know, on the top of a building or the bottom of a building. They know exactly, they can pretty much track you like to exactly, you know, behind pretty much a closed door. Because this basically tells everyone like, oh, hey, come get me. Now, the reason they put this in the game is because of 2 reasons, okay? Or at least the way that people use it is 2 ways. First is that when your team gets wiped out, so let's just say you're playing in quads and your entire team gets killed, but you survive. What you can do is pick up a Most Wanted, and then, you know, and then if you last the 3 minutes of the time limit that the Most Wanted is on you, once you exhaust that 3 minutes, all your teammates get brought back for free. So a lot of people use it for that, to get all the teammates back. The only thing is that, like, whenever you pick this up, you better be next to a vehicle, or even better, a helicopter, so that you can get the heck out of there. Because if you're just running around on foot as a most wanted, you're probably gonna get killed. So generally you don't want to be in that kind of predicament and be in a situation where you can get killed very easily. In general, I would only use that if it's trios or quads. Don't use it in duos in terms of you trying to get your teammate back, because in the 3 minutes that it takes you to run that sucker out, you can probably do another different type of bounty or different type of contract to get that $4,000 to buy your teammates back. So, but that's just my kind of take on it. What you do is up to you, of course, and how you want to play is up to you. But anyways, I hope this third tutorial really helps you guys out. Please let me know in the comments if you have any other questions about this game that you want to know about, that you're not finding an answer to online, and I'd be more than happy to answer it for you, or at least I'll do the best I can in terms of answering for you. If you like this type of video, please like, so that I can get more help on the YouTube algorithm. Please subscribe for more content, and have fun out there playing Battle Royale. And